Bahapa was a small village. That village was surrounded from all sides. The village was surrounded by small hills. The population of the village was very less. This village was in a remote area. There was a small road to reach it. The special thing was that all the land in and around that village was barren. There were fields and vegetables. There were very few trees and very few crops were visible. There was only one big peepal tree in the entire village, and its shade was very dense and cool. It was very enjoyable to sit in that shade during summer days, but the village no person from India would dare to go close to that tree or its shadow. The reason for this was that this peepal tree was growing along the wall of a greedy merchant's house. He considered this tree as his property and did not allow anyone to interfere with it. The village Washerman was not allowed to sit in the shade. He used to collect dirty clothes from the merchant's house once a week, wash and dry them and return them after a few days. In return, the merchant used to pay him a small amount as wages. One day, the Washerman collected the clothes from the Banya's house, put them on his donkey and started back. It was the time of afternoon. The sun was shining at 9:30. Not only the humans, but also the animals were seen distressed due to the heat. Everyone was in a bad condition when the Washerman Banya, when he came out of the house, he saw the cold and dense shadow of the peepal tree spread far and wide. Seeing this cool place in that scorching summer season, the Washerman's heart was stirred, and he thought that if I rest for a few moments under this tree, then it would be fun. Thinking that she would come soon, he spread his sheet on the ground under the tree in the shade and lay down on it with his legs spread in the cool breeze and shade. Soon he fell asleep and started snoring. At that very moment the tradesman came home from some work. When he came out, he saw the Washerman sleeping carelessly in the shade of peepal tree. He got angry. He woke him up by kicking him and started shouting, asking, "Who has given you permission to sleep at this place?" The poor Washerman got up in a panic and became embarrassed. And he bowed his head and said, "Sir, please forgive me, I was very tired, it was very hot, I could not stop looking at the cool shade of peepal tree, I sat down for a few moments and then my eyes fell." Hearing this, the bunny got even more angry and started shouting, "The land is not yours, the whole village knows that this tree is mine, I cannot allow anyone to live or stay under it." The Washerman said, "Sir, I have been washing your clothes for years. My father also used to serve your house. If I rested in the shade of your tree for a couple of hours, then what is your loss in it? I should get this much right in return for my work." The Washerman Mainam came and heard this. The tradesman Majid became adamant and said, "If you wash our clothes, then you will also get wages in return for it. You take this work, you don't do it for free. You don't have the right to rest even for a moment in the shade of this tree. Nothing is available for free in this world." Hearing this from the merchant, the Washerman asked with surprise, "Do you value the shade of this tree as well?" When you asked, the shopkeeper smiled and said, "I thought it was right." He had thought of a new way of earning money. The Washerman asked, "What is the price of this shade?" The shopkeeper said, "If you want to buy this shade of the tree, then you will have to pay me 1,000 gold coins." The Washerman jumped in surprise after hearing such a high price. He thought for a moment and then said, "This is a very high price, I can pay you a maximum of 200 gold coins in exchange for a few minutes." The debate continued. The shopkeeper was trying to extract as much money as possible from that stupid Washerman, and the Washerman was not ready to give more money to the shopkeeper in exchange for the cool shade of that tree. After much debate, the bill was finally settled by the Washerman for the tree of peepal. The merchant agreed to pay 500 gold coins in exchange for the money. The merchant also accepted his offer. He was happy that he was getting such a huge amount of money for free. It was also decided that tomorrow, with the sarpanch of the village as a witness, a Mahida would be arrested. A complaint will be filed, the Washerman will pay the price of that shade of peepal tree to the merchant in cash, and both of them will sign this agreement. After that, this shade of peepal tree will become the property of the Washerman. After all the matters are settled, the Washerman will be lost in his thoughts. Came back home, and on the other hand the shopkeeper was very happy that he had fooled the Washerman and got a huge amount of money. It is Italy, he was getting this amount for free. After all, what is the value of the shade of a tree? The shade is also the shade under which he himself and not himself. His wife and children were sitting till today, and he planned to buy a farm with this amount. The merchant had cheated the Washerman with his Danish, but the Washerman was also not as stupid as he thought. The Washerman also took revenge he had a plan in his mind. After reaching home, he tied the donkey to its place, took off the clothes loaded on it, kept it aside and then said to his wife, "Listen, give me your gold ornaments, I want to take the money from the goldsmith by mortgaging them." His wife was stunned to hear this and asked what was the need for so much money. The Washerman came and said, "I want to buy the shade of the peepal tree growing outside the merchant's house. I will rest under it this summer," and also started telling. After listening to the washerman's words, his wife could not believe her ears. She started thinking that perhaps her husband had gone mad. Has anyone ever bought the shadow of a tree? Is a shadow also a property? She tried to convince the Washerman. She started trying to tell you not to do this stupid thing, otherwise you will lose these jewelry also, because no one will buy this shade from you again, and you will not get your money back. But the Washerman was firm in his decision, and he did not listen to anything his wife said. Without trying to understand, the wife then said, "My advice is that after selling the jewelry, you should buy some land and cultivate crops on it, by selling which you can get more profit and become rich." The Washerman said, "Look, the first thing is that I am a Washerman. This is the only work I can do. I cannot become a farmer overnight. Plowing the fields, sowing seeds, and selling crops are not within my power. Even after working hard on the fields for 10 years, I cannot earn as much money as this evening in 6 months. I will earn, and after this you will also get your jewelry back." The washerman's wife understood that her husband was not going to change his mind, so she did not argue too much and silently brought the bundle of her jewelry and handed it over to her husband. The Washerman reached the village goldsmith, and this jewelry was mortgaged to him, and he took a loan of 500 rupees from him. Next day at Mukara time he reached the sarpanch with a bag full of gold coins to sign the contract. The tradesman was already present there along with many others from the village. People present there were surprised at this strange deal. The word had spread everywhere in the village that the Washerman had bought the shade of peepal tree from the merchant. The merchant had already filed a complaint in which the merchant had bought the shade of peepal tree. The merchant sells only 500 gold coins to the Washerman. Whichever party tries to break this arrangement will have to pay a fine of 1,000 gold coins to the other merchant. The merchant has signed this agreement, but the Washerman, since he was illiterate, he put the thumb impression of his left hand. The sarpanch signed as a witness. All the people present there became witnesses to this act and handed over the price of the coin to the merchant. Everyone present there was thinking that the merchant is very clever. He has robbed the poor simple Washerman, because till date no one has heard or seen that even the shadow of a tree is sold. From that day onwards it became a routine for the Washerman to stay in that tree from afternoon till evening. He would sleep by placing a cot under him and would also tie the rope of the donkey to his cot. This donkey would open his throat at any time and start braying. Many a times it happened that the tradesman lay down here to rest or had some important conversation with his wife and children at home. On the other hand, the donkey started his incoherent ghazal. This noise of the donkey was very painful for the Baniya. Along with the heat of the sun, the shadow of Juju was changing his place. The Washerman also kept shifting his cot along with him. The eagle kept dragging his status and Baniya. The tradesman used to sit right next to the wall of the house. Even in his own house, the tradesman was afraid of saying anything loudly, lest the Washerman sitting next to the wall might hear him. Apart from this, the Washerman would also call other people and children of the village to him. And everyone used to sit there and talk and laugh and joke. Even the children were not behind anyone in making noise. This whole situation was very troubling for Baniya and his family. Finally, one day, Baniya got fed up and decided to talk to the Washerman. He started saying to the Washerman, "It seems that you are planning to take over my house too. Because of you, your donkey, and everyone you know, our rest and work gets disturbed." The Washerman smiled and said, "There is no such thing, sir. I am just with you. I sit under Juju. The sun goes towards the Maghrib, the shadow goes towards the sea, and goes along the wall of your house. I will not go further from this." The merchant became silent for a while, but his heart was restless. He is not able to understand. He was wondering how to save his life from this problem, but then one day, he lost his life. Suddenly one day the Washerman disappeared. He was not seen by anyone in the village for many days. He was not present anywhere. Even his wife did not know that he was there. Where did he go? When the Washerman was not seen for a long time, the merchant was surprised. Although apparently he expressed his anger in front of the people, but in his heart he was also happy that his life was saved from this problem, but it seems as if bad times are coming. Similarly, one day, when the merchant was coming home after closing his shop to have lunch, he was shocked to see that the Washerman was once again present under the shade of a tree with his cot spread like before, and many people were present around him. When the merchant came closer, he saw that the Washerman had a dozen goats, sheep, 2 dogs, and 2 buffaloes. He already had a donkey. Everyone's voices together were making a strange noise. The merchant shouted angrily and asked, "What kind of spectacle did you find?" On hearing this, the Washerman said, "This is not a drama, sir. These are my cattle because there is no space in my house to keep them, hence now they will stay with this peepal tree." Hearing this, the tradesman went mad with anger. He was fed up with the Washerman alone, and now he had also brought this cattle with him and started scowling and said, "How can you keep them on my land? I have sold only the shadow, not the land." Hearing this, the Washerman started saying, "You are telling the truth, I am just a shadow. I will only use it. If you have a scale, you can take your land to some other place." Hearing the words of the Washerman, everyone started laughing. The tradesman was beaten. He considered himself very clever, but this Washerman was unable to control himself. He hesitated and said, "My land will remain here, you take your shadow somewhere else." Hearing the Baniyar's words, the Washerman said another thing and said, "Okay, but then I will take the peepal tree along with me because this shadow belongs to this tree." This is what the Washerman said. Hearing this, the merchant became very upset. How could he give permission to cut the tree planted by his grandfather? He consulted with his family members and friends and relatives and then decided to break the tradition of trading with the Washerman. Now Baniyar the Washerman had no option but to pay the fine amount back to the Washerman. The very next day, the upset Baniyar ended his affair with the Washerman, and by paying 1,000 gold coins to the Washerman as fine, he saved his life. The Washerman became happy. He got back his money doubled. With this amount, he returned the mortgaged jewelry from the goldsmith to his wife. His wife also became happy. Now, while giving advice to the Washerman, he started saying that this light, rain, sunshine and shade are all God's gifts. These are priceless and should not be captured, but should be benefited from them by joining hands with others. Baniyar had now understood this, hence from that day onwards he never refused anyone to sit in the shade of peepal tree.